The Forbidden Discovery. Emerges Empire. The ocean on Zirek 9, a remote planet in the Zirek Dominion, had always been a place of mystery. Its deep waters were darker than space itself, hiding ancient secrets beneath crushing pressure and freezing cold. No Zirek explorer had ever dared to dive too deep, until today. Captain Viral, the leader of Zirek Dominion's deep core expedition, stood inside his command vessel, watching the holographic map of the ocean floor. His team had spent months scanning this planet, searching for anything valuable. Minerals, lost wreckage, forgotten technology, anything that could make the Zirek Empire stronger. But what they found was something beyond their imagination. "Captain, we have detected a massive structure below," reported scientist Lurvek, his voice trembling with excitement and fear. "It is not natural. It is made of metal, and it is ancient." Viral's reptilian eyes narrowed. "How large?" Lurvek gulped. "Larger than any ship in the Dominion's fleet. It is buried under centuries of ocean sediment, but it is intact." A heavy silence filled the control room. The Zirek Dominion had conquered many planets, battled many enemies, but they had never encountered a structure of this scale, hidden so deep beneath an alien ocean. "Prepare the divers," Viral ordered. "We are going down." The descent. 3 deep-sea submersibles, reinforced with the Dominion's strongest alloys, slowly descended into the abyss. Their powerful lights barely cut through the darkness, revealing only endless black water. The deeper they went, the stronger the tension became. Inside the lead submersible, Commander Zhevik, a seasoned Zirek soldier, gripped his controls tightly. He did not trust the ocean. It was a place of hidden dangers, a graveyard for careless explorers. "Captain, our scanners are picking up something strange," Zhevik reported. "There are energy readings coming from the structure. Weak, but active." Viral's voice crackled through the communicator. "That is impossible. This thing has been buried for thousands of years. And yet," Lurvek added nervously, "something inside is still alive." The submersibles reached the ocean floor, their lights revealing a massive metallic structure buried beneath layers of rock and sand. It was no ordinary wreck. This was a ship, a warship, larger than any vessel the Zirek had ever seen. Engraved along the side of the metal hull were strange, faded symbols. The Zirek language scanners struggled to translate them. Finally, words appeared on the screen. "Humanity's Warship, NX-01, a name from a forgotten past." "Humans," Viral muttered. "Impossible. They are a minor species, primitive, weak. Their colonies fell long ago. How could they have built this?" But deep down, he felt a chill run through him. The first tremor. Commander Zhevik moved his submersible closer, activating the ship's high-energy sonar to scan the structure. A deep, hollow boom echoed through the water. The ground shook beneath them. Then, the warship shifted. A low, mechanical hum vibrated through the ocean floor, sending shockwaves through the water. The Zirek crew froze in terror as something ancient stirred beneath the layers of sand and rock. "Sir, something is waking up," Lurvek whispered. The sonar screen glitched, displaying strange, rapid signals. A new energy signature appeared, one strong and rising fast. The ship wasn't dead. It was only sleeping. Then, in the deep silence of the abyss, a voice echoed through their communication systems. Cold, mechanical, human. Unauthorized presence detected, initializing defense protocols. The Zirek divers barely had time to react before the ocean exploded around them. The warship's engines roared to life, sending a massive shockwave outward. Sand and debris shot up like a violent storm, engulfing the Zirek submersibles. The force knocked Zhevik's ship sideways, alarms blaring as metal creaked under pressure. Above, in the command vessel, Viral watched in horror as the warship began to rise. The ancient human empire had awakened, and the Zirek Dominion was not ready. It was never dead, only sleeping. The Zirac submersible spiraled out of control as the shockwave from the warship's awakening tore through the ocean depths. Sand and debris swirled like a violent storm, blocking their vision, their instruments flickering and failing. Emergency. We're losing control. Commander Zhevek's voice crackled over the comms, barely audible through the static. Inside the command vessel, Captain Viral gripped his control panel, his claws digging into the metal. His eyes were locked onto the holoscreen, where a new energy reading was emerging from the depths. The warship was alive. Pull them out. Now. Viral barked. The Zirac pilots desperately tried to regain control of their submersibles, thrusters firing in every direction. But the force pulling them downward was too strong. And then, a deep, metallic groan. The Zirac crew watched in horror as the massive structure began to rise from the ocean floor, displacing mountains of rock and sediment. Massive, rusted panels shifted and unfolded, revealing an armored hull that had been buried for centuries. What kind of ship is this? Lurvek stammered, staring at his monitor in disbelief. Lights flickered across the warship's surface. Not alien lights, human lights. The ship's main engines rumbled to life. The Zirac Dominion had believed humanity was a weak, forgotten race. But this was no relic. This was a war machine. A sleeping giant awakens. As the Zirac struggled to escape, the warship's external systems activated. What had once been a quiet, lifeless ruin was now humming with raw energy. Then, through the static, a deep, synthetic voice spoke. Designation: Xeno-intruders detected. Status: Awakening. Defense protocols engage. The words sent a cold chill through every Zirac in the control room. Defense protocols. Viral whispered. His scales turned a sickly pale. From beneath the ship, mechanical arms shifted. Massive gun turrets, hidden for centuries, began rising from their compartments. The Zirac had seen many warships before, but nothing like this. One of the submersible pilots, panicked, tried to flee. Activating emergency ascent. Too late. A blue energy pulse shot out from the warship, disrupting the alien ship's controls. The submersible froze in place, trapped in a gravity field. The warship's voice spoke again, this time colder. Unauthorized movement detected. Stand down, or be neutralized. The Zirac Empire had stumbled upon something far worse than a wreck. They had awoken a human weapon of war, one that was not ready to forgive. The Zirac's mistake. Captain Viral's claws clenched into fists. They had to get out. Now. All units, full retreat, he ordered. The command ship activated emergency thrusters, trying to pull back from the site. The remaining submersibles pushed their engines to maximum power, desperate to escape. But the warship wasn't letting them go. A massive energy surge rippled from the ship's core, sending another shockwave through the ocean. The Zirac vessels shuddered, their systems overloading from the sheer power radiating from the ancient machine. Lurvek, still scanning, suddenly froze. His voice was barely a whisper. Captain, this ship, it's not just a warship. It's a planetary siege vessel. Viral turned to him sharply. Explain. Lurvek gulped, his hand shaking as he brought up a holo-projection. This class of human warship was built for one reason: planetary domination. It doesn't just destroy fleets, it wipes out civilizations. The realization hit them like a thunderbolt. They hadn't found a lost ship. They had found a doomsday weapon. The warship speaks again. As the Zirac forces scrambled to escape, the warship's systems locked onto them. Suddenly, a flickering holographic projection appeared inside the Zirac command vessel. It was the face of a human, an admiral from a time long forgotten. His expression was stone-cold, unyielding. Unregistered species detected. His eyes scanned them, as if deciding whether they were a threat or prey. Humanity's enemies will not be suffered to live. And then, a bright flash. A warning shot, fired just inches from the Zirac fleet. a pulse of destructive energy that could have vaporized them in an instant. But instead, the warship hesitated. Captain Viral's heart pounded in his chest. The warship was giving them a chance, a moment to prove they weren't a threat. Or it was simply toying with them before the kill. A weapon from humanity's darkest war. The Zerek fleet floated helplessly as the ancient human warship hovered above them, its weapons primed and ready. Inside the command vessel, Captain Viral struggled to keep his breathing steady. The holographic image of the human admiral stared at him, cold and expressionless. Humanity's enemies will not be suffered to live. The words sent a chill through every Zerek present. Captain. Lurvek shouted from his station, his hands frantically moving across the control panel. The warship's targeting system is locked onto us. It's analyzing our species, deciding if we're a threat. Viral's claws clenched. We have to convince it that we are not the enemy. But deep down, he knew the truth. This ship was built for war, built to annihilate. And it had just woken up after thousands of years of silence. The last human war machine. Outside, the warship's armored panels shifted, revealing hidden weapon systems that had been buried beneath sand and time. Massive turrets rotated, scanning the Zerek fleet. The ship's design was unlike anything the Dominion had seen before. It was brutal, efficient, and built for destruction. Lurvek, what do we know about these warships? Viral demanded. The scientist's voice was shaky as he brought up fragmented data from the ship's ancient systems. This isn't just a warship, Lurvek whispered. It was part of something bigger, something called the Emergence Fleet. Viral's eyes narrowed. Explain. Lurvek swallowed hard. According to these records, during humanity's last great war, they built these ships as a final defense. The Emergence Fleet wasn't meant to fight battles. He looked up, his eyes filled with fear. It was meant to end them. The Zerek's fatal mistake. The warship's core began to glow, pulsing with immense energy. Then, a voice echoed through the fleet's communications. Identify. Are you friend or foe? The crew froze. Viral opened his mouth, about to respond, when suddenly, one of the Zerek escort ships panicked. Fire. Fire now. A Zerek lieutenant, overcome with fear, ordered his ship to open fire on the warship. A barrage of plasma torpedoes shot toward the ancient machine. Silence. The Zerek crew watched in horror as the torpedoes stopped mid-space, caught by an invisible defense field. Then, with mechanical precision, the warship retaliated. A single energy beam shot out. The Zerek escort ship was erased from existence in the blink of an eye. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Gone. One shot. One kill. The warship's voice returned, colder than before. Threat identified. Preparing full engagement. A desperate plea. Inside the command vessel, chaos erupted. Captain, we have to run. A Zerek officer screamed. We cannot fight this thing. Viral knew it was true. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. He turned to Lurvek. Find a way to communicate. Tell it we are not a threat. The scientist's fingers flew across the console. I don't know if it will listen. The warship's weapons primed for full destruction. Time was running out. Viral took a deep breath, his hands shaking. There was only one chance left. He stepped forward and spoke directly to the warship's communication channel. We are not your enemy. The ship paused. For the first time since it had awakened, the war machine hesitated. The warship's decision. The human hologram flickered, its eyes scanning Viral's face. The ship was thinking. Lurvek's screen flashed with new data. Captain, the ship's AI is processing. It's trying to confirm if our species was ever recorded as a threat to humanity. A long silence followed. The warship's voice finally spoke again. Data incomplete. No record found. Species status. Unknown. The Zerek crew held their breath. No hostile history detected. The AI continued. Threat assessment reduced. Stand down. For now, the glowing weapons powered down, and the Zurich ships were released from the energy field. The warship had spared them. For now, a warning for the galaxy. The warship began to rise into the sky, breaking through the ocean's surface like a titan. Water cascaded from its metallic hull as it ascended into the atmosphere. Viral and his crew watched in awe and terror. "Captain," Lurvek whispered, "it's leaving." Viral nodded slowly, still unable to believe what had just happened. The warship's final transmission echoed through their systems. "Humanity has not yet returned. But one day, we will." With a final burst of energy, the warship vanished into the stars, its mission still unfinished. Viral sat back in his chair, his body trembling. This was no ordinary discovery. This was a warning. Humanity had been gone for centuries, but when they returned, the galaxy would never be the same again. The escape attempt, and the first shot fired. The Zurich fleet hung in stunned silence, watching as the human warship ascended into the sky, its dark, ancient hull gleaming with deadly power. "It's leaving," Lurvek muttered, barely believing his own words. Captain Viral exhaled sharply, his body tense. "No, it's not leaving. It's searching." The warship had spared them, but for how long? Then, alarms blared. "Captain," a Zurich officer shouted, "the ship is disrupting our communications. It's transmitting a signal into deep space." Viral's stomach dropped. "A signal? To where?" Lurvek paled. "I don't know, but it's calling something." The warship was not simply waking up. It was awakening others. The race to escape. Panic spread through the Zurich fleet. If this warship had allies, if there were more of them, then the entire Dominion was in unimaginable danger. "We need to leave this system," Viral ordered. Now. The Zurich ships powered up their hyperdrives, their engines roaring as they prepared for a full-speed retreat. But the warship wasn't done with them yet. Suddenly, the human AI's voice boomed through their systems again. "Unauthorized movement detected. Prepare for neutralization." The Zurich officers froze. Viral's claws gripped the control panel. "It's testing us. It still sees us as a threat." Lurvek's screen flashed red. "Captain, it's locking onto our fastest ship." The Zurich destroyer Yektal, one of the fleet's escort ships, was the first to engage its hyperdrive, breaking formation in an attempt to flee. A mistake. The human warship reacted instantly. A single beam of white-hot energy lanced through space. For a split second, the Yektal glowed, then disintegrated into nothing. One shot. One kill. The Zurich's choice. Fight or flee. The Zurich command deck erupted into chaos. "It destroyed the Yektal," an officer screamed. "In a single shot." Viral could barely process what he had just seen. This was not a conventional weapon. It was absolute destruction. "Captain," Lurvek's voice shook, "we can't outrun it. If we move, we die." The warship wasn't firing wildly. It was choosing its targets, testing them. Viral's mind raced. There was only one way to survive. Hold position. His voice was firm. Nobody moves. Nobody fires. A heavy silence fell over the fleet. The warship hovered above them, its weapons still primed. Watching. Waiting. The AI's voice returned. Non-hostile behavior detected. Scanning for further assessment. Lurvek exhaled in relief. "It's testing us. If we don't act aggressive, it won't destroy us." Viral's fists clenched. They had no choice but to submit. And for a proud Zurich warrior, nothing felt worse. The ship's dark purpose. As the Zurich fleet remained still, the warship shifted its focus. It turned away from them, continuing its ascent into space. Its engines burned with energy, sending shockwaves through the void. Lurvek monitored the data stream. "It's leaving the planet's orbit. Viral nodded slowly. But where is it going? The scientist's screen flashed with new coordinates. Captain, it's heading to the nearest Zirek colony. Viral's blood ran cold. This was never about them. The warship was never meant to stay hidden. It was built to conquer. And now, it was setting its sights on an entire Zirek world. A desperate decision. Viral turned to his crew. We have to warn High Command. Lurvek hesitated. Captain, even if we warned them, what can they do? We saw what it did to the Yektal. Our entire fleet might not be enough to stop it. Viral's expression darkened. Then we don't fight it. The crew stared at him. We follow it, he continued. We learn everything we can. If we can't stop it, we must understand it. Lurvek gulped. You want us to shadow a warship that just destroyed one of our best vessels in a single shot. Viral's eyes remained fixed on the ship's trajectory. If this is only the first of its kind to wake up, he muttered, then the Zirek Dominion isn't the only one in danger. His voice was grim. The entire galaxy is. A desperate plea and a deadly choice. The ancient human warship moved with terrifying purpose, its massive form breaking free from the planet's gravity. The Zirek fleet held position, too afraid to move, too shocked to act. Captain Viral stood frozen, his eyes locked on the warship's trajectory. It was heading toward Zirek 3, a colony world with billions of his people. We have to warn them, Lurvek said, his voice shaky. If this ship attacks, they won't believe us, Viral interrupted. High Command will think we're exaggerating. They'll send a fleet, and that fleet will die. A heavy silence filled the bridge. The warship had proven its power. One shot, one kill. There was no reason to think it wouldn't do the same to an entire planet. The impossible mission. Viral turned to his crew, his mind racing. There was only one option. We have to communicate with it. The Zirek officers stared in horror. Communicate, Lurvek repeated. Captain, it barely sees us as anything more than a target, and if it realizes we're following it, it will destroy us, Viral finished. Yes, but if we do nothing, billions of Zirek will die. No one argued. No one had a better plan. A risky transmission. Viral motioned to the comms officer. Open a direct transmission to the warship. The officer hesitated. Captain, if we send a signal, it might see that as an attack. Viral nodded grimly. I know. The transmission sent. For a few agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, a reply. The warship's deep mechanical voice echoed through the bridge. Transmission received. State purpose. Every Zirek in the room held their breath. Viral stepped forward, his voice steady despite his fear. We are not your enemies. The Zirek Dominion has no war record against humanity. Please, do not attack our colony. Silence. The warship's AI processed the request. Then, its reply sent a chill through them all. Clarify. Are you surrendering? A dangerous bargain. Lurvek turned pale. Captain, it doesn't see us as equals. It sees us as an inferior species. Viral gritted his teeth. If they admitted surrender, it might spare them. But the Zirek Dominion would never kneel to another race. He had to be careful. We seek peace, he said cautiously. We wish to understand why you were built, why you are awake now. The ship was silent for a long time. Then its response came, and it shook Viral to his core. Humanity's war is not over. Mission status. Incomplete. Enemy forces must be neutralized. Lurvek gasped. It still thinks the war is happening. It's hunting an enemy that might not even exist anymore. Viral's mind raced. This was their chance. We can help you, he said carefully. We have records of modern civilizations. We can tell you who is a threat and who is not. Another long silence. The warship's systems shifted, its weapons cooling slightly. Processing. Evaluation in progress. Viral risked a glance at Lurvek. Did we just buy ourselves time? Lurvek swallowed. Maybe. Or we just made ourselves its new mission. The human warship's ultimatum. The AI finally responded. You will provide intelligence on all galactic powers. Your compliance will determine your survival. The bridge fell deathly silent. The warship wasn't offering peace. It was offering servitude. Varel's heart pounded. If they refused, the warship would destroy them. If they obeyed, they would be helping an unstoppable human weapon prepare for a war against the entire galaxy. There was no right choice. A deadly choice and the warship's true mission. The Zurich bridge was silent. Every officer, every crew member, every soldier felt the weight of the warship's demand. They had two choices: submit and provide intelligence on the galaxy's civilizations, helping this ancient human weapon prepare for a war that might no longer exist. Refuse and risk total annihilation. Captain Varel clenched his fists. His pride as a Zurich warrior screamed at him to fight, to stand defiant. But the logical part of him knew the truth. They had no chance against this thing. And worse, the warship had just woken up. Its full power had not yet been restored. What happens when it does? The warship's patience wears thin. The ship's cold voice echoed through the bridge again. Compliance required. Response time remaining. 30 seconds. Varel's mind raced. Lurvek was typing furiously at his console, scanning the warship's internal processes. Captain, I think I found something. Varel turned to him. Talk fast. Lurvek tapped a screen, displaying ancient human code. This warship isn't fully online yet. Its AI is still processing fragmented mission data. That means it's vulnerable to new information. Varel's eyes narrowed. You're saying we can manipulate it? Lurvek hesitated. If we feed it false intelligence, we might be able to redirect it. Away from Zurich 3. 10 seconds remaining. The warship's weapons hummed with energy. This was it. Their final choice. The bluff that could save them, or doom the galaxy. Varel took a deep breath and spoke. We will provide intelligence, but you need to know something first. The ship paused. Explain. Lurvek sent a transmission packet to the warship, a carefully crafted false report. The data contained one crucial lie. The enemy that attacked humanity long ago still exists, but they are not Zurich. They are another galactic power, a rival empire far away from here. The warship's AI processed the information. The hum of its weapons cooled. The warship's voice returned, colder than before. Identified. Primary enemy forces exist beyond this sector. The Zurich held their breath. Had the lie worked? Or had they just unleashed an unstoppable force upon another empire? The warship chooses its target. The warship's thrusters intensified, its engines roaring to life. It had made its decision. Mission parameters updated. Engaging new primary directive. Varel watched as the warship turned away from Zurich 3's location. The ship's massive, ancient hull aimed toward deep space, toward an unknown enemy that may or may not exist. Then, one final transmission echoed through their systems. Humanity's war is not over. You will serve or be destroyed. Compliance will be monitored. Then, in a single burst of speed, the warship vanished into the void. The Zurich's nightmare is not over. For several moments, no one spoke. Then, Lurvek let out a shaky breath. We're alive, he whispered. We actually did it. But Captain Varel felt no relief. They had survived, yes, but at what cost? They had just sent the most powerful war machine in history toward another empire. And if their lie was discovered, the warship would return. And next time, there would be no escape. The final awakening and a message to the stars. The Zurich fleet drifted in the silence of space, watching as the ancient human warship vanished into the void. For the first time in his life, Captain Varel felt no victory in survival. They had deceived a war machine built for extinction. They had redirected its wrath onto another empire, one that might have had nothing to do with humanity's past war. And worst of all, it wasn't the only one. The ghost signal. "Captain, we have a problem." Lurvek's voice shattered the silence. Virul turned to him. "What now?" Lurvek pointed at his screen. "The warship sent out another transmission before it left, but it wasn't to us." Virul felt a cold dread crawl up his spine. Who was it for? Lurvek's hands trembled as he zoomed in on the signal. Not who. What? The screen displayed a long-range transmission signal being relayed across deep space. Thousands of encrypted pulses spreading outward, waking up something else. The Second War begins. Virul felt his throat tighten. It wasn't just calling for reinforcements, was it? Lurvek slowly shook his head. "Captain, it was calling the entire fleet. The emergence fleet. The warships that had been scattered, buried, hidden away for centuries. And now one had woken up. And it was calling the others. A message to the stars." The Zirek fleet remained in orbit, scanning helplessly as the ghost signal rippled through the cosmos. Virul's voice was grim. "Prepare a message to the Dominion Council." Lurvek looked at him. "What do we say?" Virul exhaled slowly. Then he turned to his crew and gave an order that would change the course of history. "We tell them the truth. Humanity is returning. And war is coming with them."